My name is Mary. I am 42 years old. I live in a small house in a quiet town. I have been married for 20 years. I thought I knew my husband well. His name is Peter. We have 2 children. They are teenagers now. They spend most of their time with friends. So often, it is just me and my husband in the house. Peter is a very lazy man. He likes to sit on the couch all day. He watches TV, drinks soda, and sometimes sleeps. He never helps me with the house. He does not cook. He does not clean. He does not shop. When I ask for help, he says, "I am tired. Leave me alone." It makes me sad and angry. Sometimes I call him lazy to his face, but he just laughs and goes back to the TV. My dear friend, before I tell you more, I ask you to please subscribe, like, and share this story. Comment if you also want to learn English with real emotional stories. Your support helps me a lot. When I was young, I dreamed about a happy marriage. I thought my husband and I would grow old together with love and respect. I thought we would sit together in the evenings, talk, and share warm tea. But life did not become like that. Our marriage became cold. We live together more like strangers. We have no passion. We only stay together because of habit and the children. Many times I asked myself, why do I still live with him? But then I thought about the years we spent together. I thought about the children. I thought about the past when we were young and laughed a lot. I hoped maybe he would change one day, but year after year, he stayed the same. He did nothing. He only lived for the couch, the TV, and his rest. One Sunday morning, I wanted to go shopping. I put on my jacket and shoes, but then I remembered my bank card was in another jacket in the bedroom. I took off my coat and started to search. At that moment, I heard Peter's voice from the living room. He spoke very softly. His voice was not like his normal voice. It was sweet. I stopped and listened. "Yes, darling," he said. "I will see you tomorrow." My body felt weak. My hands shook. He never used the word darling with me. He never called me sweet names. Never. My heart started to beat fast. I felt frozen. I pressed my back against the wall and listened more. "Yes, I miss you too," he said. His voice was soft and warm. He sounded like another man, not like my husband. I could not believe it. Was he talking to another woman? My mind was racing. I almost dropped my jacket. My eyes filled with tears. I wanted to scream, but I kept quiet. When he ended the call, I walked into the living room. He was still holding his phone. He looked shocked when he saw me. His face went pale. I asked him in a strong voice, "Who were you talking to?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. He looked like a child caught in a lie. Finally, he whispered, "She is my woman." I stared at him in disbelief. "You mean a mistress?" I asked loudly. He nodded his head slowly. He did not even try to hide it. He said, "Yes, sometimes I see her." I felt my knees shake. I almost fell on the floor. I said, "You cannot fix a chair. You cannot walk to the shop. But you can meet a woman? How is this possible?" He looked down and said, "She makes me feel alive." I could not believe what I was hearing. I gave him 20 years of my life. I raised his children. I cooked for him. I washed his clothes. I cleaned his house. And now he told me another woman makes him feel alive. I felt destroyed. I wiped my tears and said, "Call her. Tell her you are coming today. Not tomorrow. Today." He looked at me with big eyes. "What? Today?" he asked. I shouted, "Yes." "Go to her. Run. Walk. I do not care. Just go. I do not want you here." He sat on the couch and looked sad. "But this is my home," he said. I shook my head. "Not anymore. You broke it. You killed it. Go to your mistress. I need to think about my life." He stood up slowly and left the house. I sat down at the table. I put my hands on my face and cried hard. Tears ran down my cheeks. My heart was heavy with pain. I whispered to myself, 20 years, and now this. I looked at the empty couch. For so many years, he was always there. Now, it was empty. It looked strange. It felt cold. I remembered when our children were small. We were young. We laughed. We had dreams. And now I was alone with betrayal. But as I sat there, I felt something new inside me. A small fire. A small light. I said to myself, I will not live with a cheater. I will not live with a lazy man who lies. I will be free. I will start again. My voice shook, but I felt stronger. I took a deep breath. I wiped my tears. The house was quiet, but in that silence, I heard my own voice telling me to be brave. The next morning, I called my daughter. My hands were shaking. My voice was weak. I told her everything. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Mom, you are strong. You can leave him. You do not need a man like this. We love you." Her words gave me courage. I started to believe that maybe I could build a new life. Maybe I could stand without him. Later that day, I saw a woman outside the house. She was young. She had a big smile on her face. She was waiting for Peter. My heart beat fast. My hands shook again. I wanted to scream, but I stayed calm. I walked up to her and said, "Leave my husband. He is married to me. Do not see him again." She looked surprised. She did not say a word. Then she walked away quickly. My husband came outside and tried to talk to me, but I turned away. My anger and my sadness were too big. I did not want to hear his lies anymore. That evening we argued. I shouted at him, "You waste your life. You are lazy. You cheat on me. I cannot believe this." He said quietly, "I am sorry." I shouted again, "Sorry?" Sorry does not fix years. Sorry does not fix broken trust. He looked down and stayed silent. I cried and cried for the lost years, for the love I once gave him, for the man I thought I knew. Each tear was heavy with pain. But while I packed my clothes, books, and small things, I felt a strange strength. Each item I placed in the bag reminded me, this is my life. I will live for myself. I called a lawyer the next day. I asked about divorce. My voice shook, but I was serious. My hands trembled as I spoke, but I knew I must do it. At night I cried again, but this time the tears were different. They were not only tears of pain, they were also tears of freedom. The next morning, I woke up early. The bed felt cold and empty. For many years, Peter always slept next to me. But now he was gone. I looked at his side of the bed. The pillow was still there. The blanket was on the floor. I touched the pillow. It was cold. I sat for a long time in silence. Then I stood up and went to the kitchen. I made tea for myself. I sat at the small table and looked out the window. The street was quiet. Children were walking to school. A man was walking his dog. A car passed slowly. Life outside looked normal. But inside my house, nothing was normal. I felt lost. I felt alone. But I also felt something new. I felt a small piece of freedom. I could breathe without him. Later that day, Peter came back to the house. He opened the door and walked inside as if nothing happened. He looked tired. He sat on the couch again. I looked at him with anger. "Why are you here?" I asked. He said, "This is still my home." His voice was low. His eyes looked at the floor. I said firmly, "Not anymore. You made your choice. You chose another woman. Go and live with her." He looked at me with a sad face. "I do not want to leave this house," he said. I shouted, "You already left me when you betrayed me. You already left when you lied. Get out." He stood up slowly. He did not argue. He walked out the door. I heard his steps fade away. I sat down again. My body was shaking, but I felt stronger. In the afternoon, my son came home from school. He saw my red eyes and asked, "Mom, what is wrong?" I hugged him and whispered, "Your father has another woman." He looked shocked. His face turned red. He said, "How can he do this to you?" "You gave him everything." Tears filled his eyes. I held him close and said, "We will be fine. We are strong." He nodded slowly. He tried to be brave, but I saw pain in his eyes too. Later, my daughter came home. I told her as well. She hugged me tightly and said, "Mom, you must not stay with him. You deserve better. We are with you." Her words gave me power. For the first time, I felt that I was not alone. My children were on my side. That night, I could not sleep. I walked around the house. Every room had memories. In the living room, I saw the old couch. I remembered many evenings when I cooked dinner and he sat there, watching TV, not even looking at me. In the kitchen, I remembered the times I ate alone while he drank beer. In the bedroom, I remembered the empty nights when he turned his back and fell asleep without a word. These memories hurt me, but they also showed me the truth. He had not been a husband for many years. I was living with a stranger. The next day, I called the lawyer again. I asked about divorce papers. I asked how to divide the house. I asked about my rights. The lawyer explained everything in simple words. My hands were still shaking, but I listened carefully. When the call ended, I felt scared. Divorce is not easy. Divorce is not simple. But I knew I had no choice. I could not live with a man who betrayed me. That evening, Peter came again. He knocked on the door. I opened it slowly. He looked weak. His clothes were not clean. His hair was messy. He said, "Please let me stay. I am sorry. I will change." I looked into his eyes. I did not see love. I only saw fear. He was not sorry for me. He was only afraid to be alone. I said, "You said another woman makes you feel alive. Go to her. Leave me." He grabbed my arm. His hand was shaking. "I will stop seeing her," he said. "Please forgive me." I pulled my arm away. I said, "Forgiveness is not possible. You broke my trust. You broke my heart. Go." He looked down and walked away again. I closed the door and locked it. After he left, I sat on the bed. Tears came again. I cried for the years I lost. I cried for the love I gave. I cried for the hope that was now gone. But with each tear, I felt a little lighter. Each tear washed away some pain. I told myself, this pain will not last forever. I will heal. I will be free. The next morning, my daughter made breakfast. She put tea and bread on the table. She said, "Mom, you need to eat. You must be strong." I smiled at her weakly. I took a small bite. It was hard to eat, but I wanted to show her that I was trying. My son said, "Mom, we are with you. We will help you." His voice was serious. I looked at both of them. My eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of love. I said, "Thank you, my children. You give me strength." Days passed slowly. I went to the lawyer's office. I signed papers. My hands shook, but I signed. I signed my freedom. The lawyer said, "Now the process begins." I walked out of the office. The sun was shining. The air was fresh. I took a deep breath. For the first time in many years, I felt the air in my lungs without fear. I whispered to myself, "I am ready." Peter tried to call me many times. I did not answer. He left messages. He said he was sorry. He said he missed me. He said he wanted to come back. But I deleted the messages. I knew his words were empty. He would not change. He never helped me before. He never respected me before. He only thought about himself. I did not want to hear his lies anymore. One evening, I sat with my daughter in the living room. She looked at me and said, "Mom, do you remember when I was small? You always told me to be strong. You always told me never to accept lies. Now, it is your time to be strong." Her words touched me. I smiled at her and said, "You are right. It is my time now." My son joined us. He said, "We will always be with you, Mom. Do not be afraid." I hugged them both. For the first time, I felt safe. Not because of a husband, but because of my children. That night, I slept better. I dreamed of a small house, quiet and peaceful. I dreamed of mornings where I wake up and smile. I dreamed of evenings where I drink tea and read a book without fear, without lies. When I woke up, I knew these dreams could come true. I only had to keep going forward. The divorce papers took weeks. Each day felt long, but with each day, I felt stronger. I started to take small walks outside. I met a neighbor and said hello. I looked at the flowers in the gardens. I watched children play in the street. These small things gave me peace. They reminded me that life goes on. Even when one part ends, another part begins. The day of the divorce came. I put on a simple dress and walked to the court with my daughter. My son wanted to come too, but I told him to stay at school. I did not want him to miss his lessons. My daughter held my hand as we walked. My heart was beating fast. I was nervous, but I also felt strong. I wanted to end this chapter of my life. When we entered the court, Peter was already there. He looked older than before. His face was tired. His eyes were dark. He looked at me, but I turned my face away. I did not want to see him. I did not want to hear his words. The judge asked simple questions. I answered clearly. My voice was calm. Peter spoke too, but his voice was weak. In less than 1 hour, it was finished. The judge said, "The marriage is ended." I felt a heavy weight leave my shoulders. I took a deep breath. My daughter squeezed my hand and whispered, "It is over, Mom." Tears filled my eyes, but they were not only tears of pain. They were also tears of freedom. When we came back home, the house felt different. It was the same walls, the same furniture, but it was no longer a prison. It was mine. For the first time in many years, I felt safe in my own home. I walked from room to room. I touched the walls. I opened the windows. Fresh air came inside. The air felt new. I whispered, "This is my life now." The first days after the divorce were hard. At night, the silence was heavy. I sometimes missed the sound of another person in the house. I sometimes felt lonely. But I told myself, being alone is better than living with lies. Each day I grew stronger. I cooked for myself and the children. I cleaned the house with music. I drank tea in the evenings. Small things gave me peace. One evening, I sat with my children at the table. We laughed at small jokes. We shared stories about the day. My son said, "Mom, you smile more now." My daughter added, "Yes, you look free." I looked at them with love. "It is because of you," I said softly. "You gave me strength when I was weak. You helped me stand." They smiled back at me. In that moment, I knew I had made the right choice. Leaving Peter was not the end. It was a new beginning. Weeks passed. Peter tried to call again, but I blocked his number. I did not want his voice in my life. Once, I saw him on the street. He looked thin and tired. He tried to wave at me. I looked straight ahead and walked away. I felt no anger, no hate. I only felt distance. He was part of my past. I did not want him in my present or my future. Slowly, I started to do new things. I went for long walks in the park. I watched families and children play. I listened to the birds sing. I felt calm. Sometimes I sat on a bench and just watched the world. It felt good to sit without waiting for a lazy husband to move or speak. I could sit for myself. I could enjoy the quiet. I also began to talk more with my neighbors. Before, I was always too tired, too busy, or too sad. Now, I had more time. A woman next door invited me for tea. We sat in her kitchen and talked. She shared her life with me, and I shared mine with her. It felt good to have someone to listen. I was not alone anymore. One night, I sat by the window with tea in my hand. The sky was full of stars. I remembered the old days when I used to dream with Peter about the future. Those dreams were gone now, but I did not feel broken. I felt calm. I said to myself, the past is behind me. The future is open. My words were simple, but they gave me peace. Months went by. The pain became smaller. The nights felt less heavy. The mornings felt brighter. I started to wake up with energy. I cleaned. I cooked. I read small books. I laughed with my children. I listened to music. Life was not perfect, but it was mine. I was free from lies, free from betrayal. One morning, my daughter said, "Mom, do you ever want to love again?" I thought for a moment. I smiled softly. "Maybe one day," I said. "But now, I want to love myself first." She nodded and hugged me. My son smiled and said, "That is the best answer." I laughed with them. I knew that real love starts with self-respect. On the anniversary of my divorce, I lit a small candle. I placed it on the table and sat with my children. We had tea and simple bread. I looked at the candle flame and said, "This light is for a new life. This light is for hope." My children smiled. They held my hands. We sat together in peace. I felt warm. I felt strong. I felt free. That night before I went to bed, I looked in the mirror. I saw a woman with tired eyes, but also with a strong heart. I saw a woman who had suffered but did not give up. I saw myself. I whispered, "I will be fine." And for the first time in many years, I truly believed it. My name is Sarah. I am 20 years old. I live in Nottingham with my parents and my little sister. Her name is Lena. She is 10. She calls me her hero. But the truth is, I had nothing. No job. No money. No future. Only dreams. I wanted to open my own bakery one day. A place with fresh bread and sweet cakes. A place where people smiled. A place where I could work with my hands and build something real. I used to close my eyes and see the name, Sarah's Fresh Bakes. But dreams don't pay bills. Dreams don't feed families. And dreams are never free. My dad is a car mechanic. He works all day and comes home tired. My mom cleans houses. She leaves early and comes back when it's already dark. They never complain, but I see the pain on their faces. I hear it in their silence. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how. One cold evening, I sat outside our house and looked at the stars. My hands were cold. My heart felt heavy. I whispered, "How do I change my life? How do I help my family when we barely have enough to eat?" The next day, I told my dad about my dream. I said, "Dad, I want to open a bakery one day. I want to make something for us. Something better." He didn't speak right away. Then he said, "Sarah, nothing is free in this world. If you want something, you have to fight for it. Start with what you have. His words stayed in my heart. Later that day, I noticed something in our part of town. People loved fresh bread, but the closest bakery was far away. People had to take a bus just to get it. That gave me an idea. What if I could bring the bread to them? There was a bakery across town, owned by a man named Mr. Harris. He was old. He looked serious. Some people said he was cold, but they also said his bread was the best in Nottingham. I knew I had to try. I walked 5 miles to his bakery. My feet hurt. My hands were shaking. When I arrived, Mr. Harris looked at me from behind the counter. "What do you want, girl?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "Sir, I want to sell your bread in my neighborhood. People there love bread, but they can't travel far. I want to bring it to them. I don't have money now, but if you trust me for 1 week, I will return your money. I will keep just a small part." He raised an eyebrow. "Why should I trust you?" I looked at him and said, "Because I won't stop trying. Because I'll work hard. Please, just give me 1 chance." He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "1 week. If you don't pay me back, don't ever come here again." That was the beginning. The next morning, I woke up at 4. I walked to the bakery, picked up the bread, and carried it home. It was warm. It smelled like hope. I set up a small table near the park and called out, "Fresh bread! Still warm!" At first, people walked past me. Some looked. Some didn't. They didn't know me. They didn't trust me. So I smiled and gave small pieces for free. "Try it," I said. "Just 1 bite." A kind man stopped. Then a mother with a baby. Then a teenager. Slowly, people came. By the end of the day, I had sold every loaf. I went back to Mr. Harris and paid him. He didn't smile, but he said, "Come back tomorrow." And I did. Every day. Each morning, I walked. Each day, I sold bread. Each night, I paid him back. Slowly, I saved a little money. After 2 months, I bought a second-hand cart. It had wheels and a small roof. I didn't need to carry bread in my arms anymore. One day, a woman said, "You're good at this, but why don't you bake your own bread? You'll earn more that way." That thought stayed in my mind. Bake? I had never baked before. I didn't know how. I was afraid. But I remembered what my father said. Nothing is free. Not even learning. Not even courage. The next morning, I stood in front of Mr. Harris. I said, "Sir, can you teach me how to bake?" He stared at me. "Why should I help you? If you bake, you won't buy from me. I'll lose a customer." "You're right," I said, "but I'll never forget you gave me my first chance. If I succeed, I'll help your bakery too. I promise." He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he said, "Baking is not easy. It takes time. It takes care. If you're serious, come at 3 a.m. tomorrow. I was there at 2:50. He showed me how to mix flour and water, how to knead the dough, how to feel the texture with my fingers, how to wait, how to bake. He didn't say much. He just watched. He let me fail. And I failed. My first bread was too hard. The next was too soft. Sometimes it didn't rise. Sometimes I burned it. My hands hurt. My eyes burned. One morning I dropped everything. I sat on the floor and said, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm not strong enough. But then I thought of my mom. I thought of Lena. I thought of my father's voice. Nothing is free in this world. And I stood up. The next day, I worked harder. I watched everything Mr. Harris did. I listened. I practiced. Slowly, the bread changed. It started to look right. It smelled good. It felt soft and warm in my hands. One day, Mr. Harris said, "This one is good. You're ready." I smiled. I wanted to cry. I borrowed a small oven and started baking at home. My mom helped clean. Lena helped pack. She made stickers that said "Baked by Sarah." I kissed her on the forehead and said, "You're my little helper." I took my bread to the park again. People asked, "Did you make this?" I said yes. They smiled. They came back the next day, and the day after that. Soon, I was not just selling bread. I was making cookies, little cakes, small pies. People liked them. They brought friends. Some said, "Sarah's bread is the best in Nottingham." And for the first time in my life, I believed them. But success is not easy. It never is. And just when I started to feel strong, something happened that shook everything. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The days passed. My little business was growing. People came to the park just to see me. Some came early to buy before I sold out. Others just came to talk. They called me the bread girl. They said my smile made the bread taste better. I laughed. But inside, I was proud. I still had so much to learn, but I felt like I was building something real. At home, things were changing too. My dad started coming home early to help fix the cart. My mom helped me prepare ingredients. My sister Lena stood next to me every evening. She packed the bread in bags and stuck her little labels on them. She said, "One day, I'll bake with you." I kissed her head. "One day, you'll own your own shop," I said. People began asking for new things. "Do you have cakes? Do you make sweet rolls? Can you add fruit?" I wanted to say yes to everything, but I didn't know how. So I went to the library. I found books about baking. I read them slowly. The words were hard sometimes, but I kept going. I watched videos on the computer. I wrote down every step. Then I tried. I failed. Then I tried again. I made lemon cake. It was too sour. I made apple pie. It was too soft. I made cinnamon rolls. They were burnt. But I didn't stop. I woke up early. I worked until night. I cried sometimes. But I never gave up because I knew the truth now. Nothing is free. Not success. Not respect. Not peace. You have to earn it. After many mistakes, my sweets started tasting better. My hands moved faster. My oven worked every night. My kitchen smelled like cinnamon and sugar. I could feel something growing. Not just my business, but my heart. My belief. I believed in myself more every day. Then one afternoon, something happened. A new bakery opened in our part of town. It was big and bright. The name was Eric's Delight. People gathered outside. There were colorful signs, fancy tables, pretty cakes in the window. I stood across the street and watched. My heart felt heavy. I knew this would change everything. The next day, I noticed fewer people came to my stand. Some of my regular customers didn't show up. Others said, "I tried the new bakery. It's nice inside." I smiled and said, "That's good." But I felt like crying. I went home that night and sat in silence. My hands were tired. My eyes were sore. I looked at my little oven. I looked at my bags of flour. Am I losing? I whispered. But I didn't want to give up. Not now. I had come too far. I had worked too hard. So instead of crying, I asked questions. I asked people, "What do you like about Eric's shop?" Some said, "It's clean." Some said, "The cakes look pretty." Some said, "The decorations are nice." No one said the bread was better. They said the place felt special. I went home and thought about that all night. I didn't have a shop. I didn't have lights or signs. But maybe I could still make my little cart feel special. I cleaned it well. I painted it blue. I added flowers. I tied little yellow ribbons to the roof. I made a sign with my name. Sarah's Fresh Bakes. I asked Lena to draw something on it. She drew a loaf of bread with a smiley face. Then I started giving free samples again. I said, "Just try one bite." I offered new things. Apple tarts, raisin buns, tiny cupcakes with soft frosting. I added bright boxes and little stickers with kind words. "Thank you. Have a sweet day. Made with love." And people started coming back. One woman said, "I missed your smile." A man said, "Your bread tastes like my grandma's." Another said, "Eric's shop is nice, but your food has heart." I held those words close. Still, it wasn't easy. I worked harder than ever. I barely slept. Some nights, I didn't even eat. I used my savings to buy better ingredients. I learned how to make cakes with soft edges and creamy centers. I wrote my own recipes in a notebook. I drew pictures of what my shop would look like one day. One evening, an old woman came to my cart. Her coat was old. Her hair was gray. She bought a small loaf. Then she looked at me and said, "I've lived here a long time, my dear. I've seen many young people try. Most give up when things get hard. But not you. You stayed. That's why we trust you." Her words made my eyes fill with tears. I thanked her and watched her walk away. Then I closed my cart and stood there for a moment. I looked up at the sky. It was dark now. The stars were out. The same stars I looked at when I first whispered my dream. I felt tired, but I also felt strong. I was still here. I was still fighting, and I was ready for the next step. After many months of saving, I finally had enough money to rent a small space. It wasn't big. It was just one room with a window and an old oven. But it was mine. My name was on the door. Sarah's Fresh Bakes. I cleaned the floors. I painted the walls. My dad fixed the door. My mom helped hang shelves. Lena made paper flowers and taped them to the window. On the first day, I baked all night. I made bread, muffins, cookies, and sweet rolls. I opened the door before sunrise. My hands were shaking. I was afraid no one would come, but they did. Old customers, new faces, children with coins, teenagers with big smiles. They bought everything. They stayed to talk. They said, "It smells like home in here." My mom stood behind the counter. My dad served tea. Lena wore a little apron and helped carry bags. I looked at them and smiled. I had nothing before, just a dream. Now I had a shop. I had my family beside me. I had people who believed in me. But life doesn't stop testing you. Just when everything felt right, something terrible happened. It happened late one evening. I was cleaning the shop. My parents had gone home. Lena had already fallen asleep in the back room. The day was busy. People came and left with full hands and happy faces. My heart was full. My feet were tired. I was wiping the counter when I smelled something strange. It was sharp. It was bitter. I turned around and saw smoke near the oven. At first, I froze. Then I ran. I grabbed a bucket of water and poured it over the fire. I used a towel to stop the smoke. My hands shook. My chest hurt. The flames were small, but the damage wasn't. The oven was ruined. The wall behind it was black. My beautiful little kitchen, the one I worked so hard for, now smelled like smoke and fear. I sat on the floor and cried. The next morning, people in town heard about the fire. Some came to see the shop. Others whispered, "Will she close down now?" I stood outside with Lena beside me. My hands were black from smoke. My apron was dirty. but I raised my chin and said, "I'm not giving up. This is not the end." That night, I counted my savings. It wasn't enough. I couldn't buy a new oven. I couldn't fix the wall. I felt scared. I wanted to hide. For a moment, I thought, maybe this is too much. Maybe I should stop. But then I remembered how I started. I remembered walking to Mr. Harris's bakery in the cold. I remembered selling bread in the park. I remembered every early morning, every failure, every tear. And I remembered my father's voice. Nothing is free in this world. Not your dream, not your future, not your strength. So I did what I always did. I got up. I went back to Mr. Harris. He had retired, but I knew he still lived above his old bakery. I knocked on his door. He opened it slowly. His face was older, but his eyes were still sharp. "Sarah," he said. I smiled. "I need advice," I said. "If you were me, what would you do?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "You already know the answer. You've lived it. Work harder. Believe in yourself. People will believe in you too." I thanked him and walked home. His words gave me courage. The next day, I started baking at home again. My mom helped me clean the old kitchen. My dad found an old second-hand oven for a low price. It was small, but it worked. I posted a sign on the shop window, "Temporarily closed, but we'll be back." Then I made a promise to everyone. I said, even if I can't bake for all, I'll still bake for some. I won't let you down. People saw me trying, and something amazing happened. One neighbor gave me bags of flour. Another came with sugar. Someone offered to repaint the damaged wall. A woman I didn't know gave me 10 pounds and said, "This is all I have, but I want you to keep going." Even Lena's school teacher came to help scrub the floor. I didn't ask for help, but they came. Not because I begged, but because they believed in the girl who never gave up. And I learned something I never forgot. When you work with your whole heart, people feel it. They don't just buy your bread. They stand beside you. Week by week, the shop came back to life. We cleaned, we painted, we smiled through the dust. I baked with love and care. I tested new recipes, cupcakes, muffins, fruit-filled buns. I even tried soft chocolate cake. And people came back. More than before. Not because I had a big fancy shop, but because they saw me rise again. On the day of the grand reopening, I stood in front of the door with Lena. She held my hand. My parents stood behind us. The shop looked warm and bright. The sign was new. The shelves were full. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. People gathered outside. Neighbors, friends, even strangers. They clapped as I opened the door. Some cried. Some hugged me. Then, something I didn't expect happened. The mayor of Nottingham arrived. He stepped inside, He looked around. He smiled. Then he said, "This is more than a bakery. This is a story of hope. Sarah, you've shown us what hard work looks like. You've reminded us that when someone believes in themselves, others will believe too." I was speechless. I stood there in front of everyone. My heart was full. My eyes were wet. Then I took a deep breath and said, "I want to thank all of you. This bakery started with nothing, just a dream in my heart. But now it stands because of hard work, mistakes, and the people who didn't let me fall. I've learned something. Nothing in this world is free. Not success. Not love. Not respect. You have to earn it. With sweat. With tears. With time. And when you fail, you stand up again. You try again. Because every challenge is just a step to something better. The people clapped. Some shouted my name. Lena looked up at me and whispered, "You did it, big sister." I knelt beside her. "No," I said. "We did it." From that day on, Sarah's Fresh Bakes became more than a shop. It became a place where people felt welcome, where stories were shared, where dreams had a smell of warm bread and sweet cakes. People from other towns came to visit. Some asked for advice. Some brought their daughters to meet me. They said, "We told them your story." I smiled and said, "Tell them to never give up." I still work hard every day. I still wake up before the sun. I still burn a tray now and then. But now, I know who I am. I'm the girl who started with nothing and built something with her own hands. And you can too. Whatever your dream is, don't stop. Keep going. Learn. Fail. Try again. Because nothing is free in this world, but everything is possible. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.